To start here with anarchist history, I got my recorder on here. We got some videos. So, let me get started. My name's Darian Worden. I'm an individualist anarchist. I live in New Jersey currently. Up here for the weekend. I have a website, darianworden.com, and I do columns at Center for a Stateless Society, c4ss.org, and I also do a radio show with Bile and a couple other people who are going to be up here this weekend called Thinking Liberty, just at thinkingliberty.net. So, I'm going to get started with an anarchist history presentation. I'm not calling it the anarchist history presentation because it represents one person's viewpoints, specifically mine, on what to include in less than an hour of, lots and lots of history with lots and lots of threads going through it. So the first thing I want to say is why study anarchist history? Any of you have any ideas?
Bored.
Is he bored?
These are like good ideas.
Alright, well, I guess I'll give my ideas then. I think when you study history, it contextualizes your action. It gives you a historical basis to kind of look in. That doesn't mean you have to pigeonhole yourself into a specific historical model, but it gives you kind of a basis to look at. And also, it's when you have a narrative, it can be a powerful thing. Nation states know this. There's always a national mythology. So having some sense of anarchist history, of heritage, of things to celebrate, it's kind of a unifying, almost empowering idea that could help you. So there's also, of course, lessons that can be applied based on the conditions of today. Remember, we are living in 2010, so when we try to apply something that happened in 1848, we have to look at how that can be done. What are the conditions of today that are different? Things like that. And I think it also gives us some more effective means of communication. If somebody asks, well, how would anarchists do this? You can say, well, here's something that anarchists have done. Here's other ideas. And if people challenge you about something that anarchists have done that they heard was bad, which every movement has probably good and bad things that have happened, you at least have a knowledgeable way to explain it. It doesn't mean you have to say that everything that everybody who is an anarchist has done has been good, but you can at least explain where it's coming from and what the general idea on that action was. And finally, somebody is going to write the history of anarchism, and this doesn't mean that that anarchists have to write an official history, but it does mean that it's good to have a well-expressed counterpoint when someone gives a simplified version for cheap political points. And certainly anarchism has been an important current in modern history, so it's good to have some knowledge of that, and people who are interested in it will probably be good at shedding light on some of these things. So, as I said, the presentation's going to be a little limited. This is a broad subject, and what we include and don't include can easily skew perception. I've tried to present a roughly chronological narrative that takes asides to explain certain contexts and concepts. I'm trying to include a lot in here, just so you have a basis to pick up some threads to look after further knowledge. So, of course, this is being filmed, but this shouldn't be read as a grand pronouncement or a finished work. This is a work in progress, and I definitely want to hear feedback from the audience and anybody watching this on YouTube who might comment later. So if you're looking for recommended reading, I can help you. I'm going to leave some time at the end for specific concerns or questions. If I've omitted an important thinker or concept that you don't think I should have, let me know. I'll take this into account. And keep in mind that everybody changes their views over time. This does include anarchists. So some of the thinkers I mentioned, they do change how they would apply anarchism, and some of them even become non-anarchists. And of course, most of them, you know, didn't come out of the cradle bearing the black flag, so they might have some opinions that were not anarchist at some point in their life. And once again, when we study history, it's very easy to get caught up in this glorious past, trying to relive something, but we should really be focused on the glorious future ahead of us. What are we going to do in 2010? Like I said, it's not 1848, it's not 1871, it's not 1917. We have a lot of things that are unique about our circumstances today. So when we study history, it shouldn't be for imitation, it should be inspiration, and just general knowledge. So, what is the history of anarchism? I'm going to describe this as an impulse or practice, and also as a defined ideology. There's a practice in history and an articulated idea that is the ism. And these start to be woven together as thinkers and actors get more consistently libertarian, that is, more consistently concerned with individual liberty. So, let's start here. The development of the state is a history of bloody conquest and exploitation. The prevailing social and economic conditions surrounding the state have reflected this history. Anarchism could be seen as the negation of the power-mad killings and the suffering of past millennia. But it is also a positive stand for a world of freedom and solidarity, a world of creativity restrained only by the obligation that we not invade the liberty of others to flourish in the development of their individual personhood. And before anarchism was an articulated and labeled philosophy, there have been strivings towards this idea. From 7400 to 5700 BCE, there was a settlement in modern-day Turkey called Çatalhöyük. It was a Neolithic settlement. There were approximately 10,000 people there, packed in a relatively short area. It could be seen as one of the first cities, but the archaeologists generally call it an overgrown village. And it appears to have been an egalitarian, relatively egalitarian society of autonomous extended families, and they had long trade routes. They picked up obsidian, among other things, from far away. But I'd caution against being too sure of speculation, and I don't want to get the idea that there's this anarchist Eden back there. There was some golden age in the past. It's possible that it was, but I haven't read that much of the history by the archaeologists who are involved. You can look this up online. I'll give you the spelling if you want. A lot of it hasn't been excavated, so I wouldn't jump to speculation about this, but it's certainly an interesting case that bears more study. And something that's recently come to the attention of, I guess, people studying social conditions is zomia, which is actually, the word zomia is used to describe a region, mostly in Southeast Asia, in the highlands, where the reach of government and sometimes a lot of things we would consider modernity have not reached. So for about the past 2,000 years, a lot of people living in the highlands in Southeast Asia have resisted having a state rule over them. There's a lot of kind of local communities, local economy, and they try to keep away from the state. So this could be another area to look at. Again, that's over the past 2,000 years this has developed. A lot of the peasant revolts in Europe could be seen as a striving towards anarchism. You know, your feudal landlords didn't become rich by trading goods that people wanted. They became rich by stealing. So people who were forced to work for them on the land, a lot of times they didn't like their condition. They rose up. It wasn't real anarchism most of the time that you see, but it's kind of a striving towards this idea. Then in Celtic Ireland, you have a lot of relatively non-hierarchical, non-formalized state in their type of system of governance. So that could be looked at as that. There are pirate utopias in the 17th and 18th centuries. A lot of times, you know, the development of the modern economy depended on this long distance trade and real brutal conditions on ships. And people who escaped this became pirates. You know, a lot of times they were no better than your average robber, but sometimes they would, you know, they'd create their own societies where there weren't slaves. Every man tried to be a king, and they, you know, they would plunder these ships that were favored by authority, and they would set up their own societies. So there's that, and then a lot of in America you have some stateless societies that are indigenous. A lot of the you know, early settlers in Rhode Island and